Hello there, stampers and crafty friends. It's Jackie Bolhuis from Klompen Stampers. Today we're going to do a little bit of simple watercoloring. People have often said that watercoloring is scary or it's a little bit intimidating, but you know what? Everything I do is simple. So I'm going to show you a simple way to get fantastic results with some watercoloring. We're using the Happiness Abounds stamp set, and I know a bunch of you have that stamp set because you purchased it to go along with my Fun Folds class. So this is just going to be a whole nother idea and technique that you can use with those stamps. This is a way of watercoloring that I've done for a long time. I feel like I always come back to it over the years because it's easy. And I think it kind of makes you feel artsy. Your cards look artsy, but I promise you there is no artsy talent in me whatsoever. So I hope I can show you how simple it is and encourage you to give it a try because I think you might really like the results you can get from it. So before we flip the camera down and get started, just a quick reminder, make sure to check out the blog post that goes with this video. There will be a link down in the video description. It will take you right to that blog post, and I will have pictures of 2 cards that I'm sharing with you today, along with all the products I use. And what you guys all love is the card recipe or the card measurements, so that if you would like to make these exact same cards, please copy them. You know, I tell people all the time, it is okay to copy cards. That's why I share them, to give you ideas and help you be successful in your own card making. So don't feel bad. Use my measurements, use my supply list, and make these cards so that you can play with watercoloring. And while you're over on the website, don't forget, if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator that you work with and you would like a catalog, just click on catalogs up at the top, and you can request a catalog and we can pop that in the mail to you. Alrighty, and as always, don't forget, we're here to help you. So if you have any questions, leave us a comment, send us an email. We would love to be able to help you in any way that we can. Speaking of comments too, I love reading them. You know, we don't always reply to all of them, but trust me, I love to at night sit down and scroll through the comments. So I'm really happy when you share that you like my projects, because that's why I share them. I'm just sharing what I love to do in hopes that you will love it too. Alrighty, are you ready to learn how to do easy watercoloring? Well, let's flip this camera down and let's get started. So here's just a quick peek at the Happiness Abounds stamp set, and we're going to be coloring several of these images. Now when you're doing watercoloring, you need a line image, and I really like this one because there's some nice open spaces there, but lots of lines to kind of hold our watercoloring, and you'll see why that's important here in just a second. Now, with watercoloring, you want to use either shimmery white cardstock or watercolor paper. Now, because this is so detailed, watercolor paper, it'd be hard to get a really crisp image. So I'm choosing the shimmery white. And I don't know if you can see the little bit of shimmer there, but it has a coating to it. And because we're putting water on it, that's what we need. Otherwise, your paper gets all fuzzy and kind of, you know, gets icky on you. So that's why we need to use a paper that will handle the water. Now, we are going to emboss our images. We're going to emboss them and then cut them out. So this is just kind of a scrap piece. And we are going to start by doing embossing with white powder. I'm so excited. This card turned out so cute. I can't wait to share it with you. Now, when you're embossing, you want to use the embossing buddy. And you're going to take this and just rub it. You can pounce it a little bit and rub it all over your cardstock. That will get the static out of it so that the embossing powder doesn't stick in spots that you don't want it. Now, for a long time, Stampin' Up! Did not sell these. They're finally back. I am so excited. And it comes in a little embossing kit where you get the tray, the brush, the embossing buddy. It's a fabulous whole setup and tool if you like to do embossing. Now, we've done our embossing buddy, and then next we're going to take our images. We need to ink them up good with Versamark. And when I stamp on here, you'll notice you don't really see anything. So then we're going to bring in our little tray here and take our white powder and we'll cover it with powder. Now this is going to be really hard to see because it is white on white. So there's not a lot to see yet, but just wait until you see it come to life. And then we are going to take, there's a couple of different leaf images here. So this one has 2 leaves, and then we'll do a couple of these. And as long as I work relatively fast, this ink is real slow to dry. I can do all of that stamping on there. And then we'll bring this over, dump more powder on, make sure I get all of those, and then just tap off all the excess. Can you see that there? I don't know if it's showing up or not. And then when we're done with putting the powder on, there is a little screw cap on here, but I've taken it off and I just tend to never put it back on because we can just take this powder, it comes through that little funnel end, and it real easily will go right back into your drawers, or jar. I don't know where I got drawer from there. So we'll just get all that powder back in there, and then we can set this aside. Let's put the top on. Get this out of the way here with our embossing buddy, our Versamark. That's so much stuff here. And then we're going to take our heat tool and turn it on. And hopefully I can talk over it. You can still hear me talking. Since I haven't used it in a while, we want to get it heated up. And then I'm going to start putting this right over, trying to heat up that embossing powder. Now, a couple of tips here. As you're heating it up, you will see all of a sudden it starts turning bright white and shiny. I'm just kind of moving it around. Once it gets started, it's like it spreads almost like this spider web. Right now I'm heating down in this corner, and you'll see all of a sudden it's going to start. There we go. And then it happens really, really, really fast. Move that heat source around until every part of it is melted, but don't over melt it. As soon as it turns white and shiny, move that heat, because if you hold it there too long, you actually will burn it, or you'll flatten it out and it'll be dull and not shiny and not pretty anymore. There we go. Can you see? We've got our flower and our leaves over here. Okay, we are ready to do some watercoloring. Now, the method I like for this is to just use one of my clear blocks, and we're going to start out by using Sweet Sorbet Re-Inker. And I'm going to just take and put a couple of drops of this right there on that block. And then we're going to take our aqua paint, well, water painter, it used to be called an aqua painter. And this is just a paintbrush with a reservoir there to put water in. So you can see I've got water in there. And I'm going to squeeze it and just get that water kind of flowing, and it'll start to drip. We want to get just a little bit of water down to water down that Re-Inker. And then here's the important part. I am going to make sure I still have some water flowing, and I'm going to actually paint in my flower. You can see I had a little bit of pink left on my brush. That's okay. But I want to get some water on the flower, and that's okay if it even puddles up a little bit. This is the beauty of it being embossed. You've got all those little ridges. And then we can come over here and pick up some, and I'm almost just like dabbing it on there, and see how it's contained in there. And now you can start to see this flower come to life. If you feel like it's too dark, add a little bit more water, but see how it spreads as I dab? I mean, this is like the simplest form of watercoloring. Let a few different shades in there. It doesn't have to be super solid, perfectly colored. It's okay if there's a little bit of white space, because you want, just those different shades. And then what I like to do is kind of clean off the brush here, so we have very little color left, and then go around the edges. I'm going to end up die cutting this, and I just want some real light color around the edges. So this looks really ugly, but when we die cut it, it'll just give us that nice, real light colored edge around it. Easy peasy. So let's do the leaves. We're going to go ahead and we'll put a little bit of Granny Apple Green on there. No, I'm sorry, it's not Granny Apple Green. It is Parakeet Party. And then we can add a little bit of water here to it, water it down a little bit. And then we'll come over here and we'll add some water. It picked up a little green already, that's okay. Get some water in those leaves, and then pick up some of that ink. Now, if you ever get too much water, like I feel like I do right there, just take a tissue and blot it off. And And then you can just kind of keep coming back, layer on that color if you want to, but we'll get those leaves colored. Okay, then I'm going to do the same thing, get this super watered down and just go out around these edges. That way it's going to make that color pop. Okay, there we go. We got a couple more here to do, and then we're going to be ready to die cut, and I will show you our completed card. But I hope, if anything, you're realizing how easy this is to get a fun watercolor look. See how I can get these darker or lighter. See how much darker this one is? It's just because I have a little bit more ink. And then we'll kind of water it down and go out around those edges. I mean, there's no right or wrong way here. Just don't be afraid to play with it. So let's just put a little water, give it a squeeze, get some water in those leaves, and then we can see how it wasn't dabbing so good. Can just kind of dab at one end there, and then it'll spread down. Get them as dark or as light as you want. Kind of go over it. Now, if you feel like they're not dark enough, just come back and we can add a little bit more and see how that embossing just holds that color in there for you. Okay, I think, you know what? Let's make these just a smidgen darker down here. And you get too much on there, add a little water, just keep playing. I think this is kind of therapeutic to sit here and watercolor and paint. Okay, so there are our watercolored images. So what I would do next now to make my card is use my dies. This particular stamp set has coordinating dies, and cut these out. But first I want to let it dry. You can see the paper's buckled a little bit, but we want that color to dry good before we cut it out. So we're gonna do a little make-believe and a little power of video here and bring in the finished card. How's that? You can see here, this flower is actually quite a bit lighter than the one I colored. But you can see there's our leaves. And you see how we don't have the white border because I put that light color all the way around. And then for the layers on this card, I used the new deckled rectangles. This was the first time I think I might have used these. But look at what a pretty layer that gives. And that, you know, they're size nice to be able to layer them one on top of the other. I just stamped a greeting in my Memento Black. Added a little bit of that black gingham ribbon, a couple embellishments, and there is my card. Now, I have a second one I made as well. Now, this one has a lot more coloring and die cutting, but everything was done the same way. You can see there's all those images, a little bit darker ones, a bunch of the leaves, our deckled rectangles, our greeting, and a couple little embellishments. So there you go. 2 different watercolored cards using Happiness Abounds. I hope that what you learned today is how easy it is to watercolor using the water painter, your re-inkers, and embossing powder. I like the look, the softness of that white, but most importantly, when you emboss it, it just helps hold that color in there, making that watercolor super simple. Now, a few other ones I want to show you using this stamp set. If you are one of my regular followers, you will know a couple weeks ago, I released my 3rd volume, I think it was the 3rd, yeah, of my Fun Fold class. So these were the cards that we made for that Fun Fold class. We used the designer series paper and the dies, but here you can see some more embossing. Here, these are the stitched rectangles. Ooh, look at that one. Isn't that a fun fold? But I want to just share these because the tutorial for these 4 cards is available over on my website. It'll be linked in the blog post. All you need to do is look for the description of this video and click on the link to that blog post, and it will tell you how you can purchase the tutorial to make the Fun Fold templates, but also step-by-step instructions for these 4 cards. And then the most important part of that blog post will be pictures of these cards, a list of all the colors and products that I used, as well as the card measurements. So if you'd like to copy these cards, please do. That's why I share them, to give you ideas to copy. So any questions, reach out, leave us a comment, send us an email. We love to hear from you. And I look forward to stamping again with you real soon. Have a stamp happy day.